Hello ARMY, welcome back to my channel. If you were watching the live stream, or following the fan cams from Brussels on July 2nd, you probably saw a moment that made your heart stop before you even knew what was happening. In the middle of the second night of the Arirang World Tour at King Baudouin Stadium, the music simply cut, the members froze, and for a few seconds nobody in that stadium knew why. Today I want to walk you through exactly what happened, why Jimin was the one who noticed first, and why so many fans are calling this one of the most quietly powerful moments of the entire European leg. Before we get into it, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because I cover every single stop of this tour as it happens, and you do not want to miss what's coming next from London, Munich, and Paris. So let's set the scene. This was BTS's first time ever performing in Belgium, and the anticipation for these 2 nights had been building for months. King Baudouin Stadium was packed wall to wall with ARMY who had traveled from across Europe just to be there. The energy coming off that crowd from the moment the show started was intense, the kind of electricity you only get when a fan base has waited years for a band to finally set foot in their country. The first night on July 1st had already been an emotional release for a lot of people, and the second night on July 2nd was shaping up to be just as massive, if not more so, because by night 2 everyone knows the set list, everyone knows the surprise moments are coming, and the crowd tends to get even louder. And that's exactly the kind of environment where something like this can happen without anyone even realizing it at first. Stadium shows are chaotic in the best way. Thousands of people pressed close together, jumping, screaming, waving light sticks, the heat from the lights, the sheer physical intensity of being in a crowd that size for hours. It's an incredible experience, but it's also demanding on the body, and sometimes, without warning, someone in that crowd starts to struggle. That's what happened during the second Brussels show. Somewhere in that sea of ARMY bombs, a fan became unwell in the middle of the performance. Now here's the part that really got people talking. It wasn't security who spotted it first, at least not that we know of. It was Jimin. In the middle of performing, while thousands of people were watching him, while the choreography and the vocals and the sheer production of a BTS stadium show were all happening around him, Jimin's attention shifted to someone in the crowd who didn't look right. Think about that for a second. This is a level of stage presence and awareness that most performers simply don't have. When you're in the middle of a show that size, your focus is usually locked onto hitting your marks, staying in formation, remembering the next transition. But Jimin's eyes were on the crowd, and he caught something the rest of us would have completely missed. If this is the kind of behind-the-scenes detail you love learning about BTS, drop a comment and tell me which member you think notices the crowd the most, because honestly, this isn't the first time we've seen Jimin do something like this on this tour, and I don't think it'll be the last. I read every comment, so let me know your thoughts down there. Once Jimin realized something was wrong, he didn't hesitate. He immediately alerted the other members. And this is where the moment turns from a single member's instinct into a full group response. You have to imagine what that looks like from the inside of a live show. The music is playing, the crowd is going, and suddenly one member is signaling to the others that something is happening off script. There's no pause button on a stadium concert. Whatever Jimin communicated in that moment, it was enough for the rest of the group to immediately understand the seriousness of it, and they responded as a unit. The performance came to a stop. Not a scheduled pause, not part of the set list, but a real halt, right there in front of tens of thousands of people. Jimin requested help from the venue's crew directly, making sure that whoever needed to reach that fan had a clear path to do so. And then something remarkable happened. All 7 members stood there, on that massive stage, in front of that massive crowd and waited. They didn't rush the moment. They didn't try to fill the silence with a quick joke, or move on to the next song to keep the energy going. They stood together and let security and medical personnel do their job, even though that meant standing in front of a full stadium with the show completely paused. If you've ever been to a big concert, you know how rare that is. Shows are built around momentum. Once you stop, you risk losing the crowd's energy, throwing off the whole rhythm of the night. Any tour manager will tell you that pausing a stadium show is a genuinely difficult call to make, both logistically and emotionally, because thousands of people are watching and waiting, and the pressure to keep things moving is enormous. But in that moment, none of that mattered to BTS. The person who needed help mattered more than the show. I want to pause here and just say, this is exactly why this channel exists. I started documenting this tour because I wanted ARMY who couldn't be there in person to still feel connected to these moments, the big performances, but also the small human ones like this. If you appreciate that kind of coverage, consider subscribing, because I'm going to keep bringing you these stories from every stop, translated and broken down, so nothing gets lost. While the members waited for security and medical staff to reach the fan through the packed arena, RM used that pause for something quietly touching. He turned his attention to the fan and gently told them to drink some water. Just think about the simplicity of that gesture. In the middle of an unfolding situation, with a stadium full of people watching, RM's instinct was to offer the most basic, practical kindness he could. Not a grand statement, not a dramatic gesture for the cameras, just genuine human concern, telling someone who wasn't feeling well to hydrate. It's such a small thing, and that's exactly why it resonated with so many people who saw it. It wasn't performative. It was just care, offered in real time without a script. Getting to someone in the middle of a packed stadium crowd is not simple. Security and medical teams had to navigate through a dense crowd of standing, excited fans, all while trying to move quickly and carefully at the same time. Every second in a situation like that can feel long, both for the person who needs help and for everyone watching and waiting. And that's exactly what the members did. They waited, on stage, in full view of everyone, not rushing the process, not signaling for the show to resume before the situation was actually handled. Eventually, the fan received the care they needed and the situation was resolved safely. And once that happened, Jimin's response told you everything about how seriously he had taken the moment. He expressed his gratitude to the staff who had helped, making sure they were acknowledged for stepping in and handling things quickly. It's a small detail, but it says a lot. In a moment where the focus could have easily gone right back to the concert and the crowd, Jimin took a beat to recognize the people who did the actual work of helping. But here's the part of the story that I think deserves even more attention, and it's the part that a lot of coverage actually left out. Jimin didn't just move on once the fan was okay. Later in the show, he addressed the crowd directly, and it was clear from how he spoke that this moment had stayed with him. His concern didn't disappear the second the situation was resolved. He carried it with him for the rest of the night, and he made sure the crowd knew that he was still thinking about it. That's the kind of detail that turns a stressful incident into something genuinely touching, because it shows this wasn't just a reflexive pause in the show. It was something that actually affected him. If you're new to this channel, this is exactly the kind of coverage I focus on. Not just the big flashy tour moments, but the human side of what happens when BTS is on stage. So if that's what you're here for, go ahead and subscribe now, because I break down every single leg of this tour as it happens, from Seoul all the way through wherever this tour ends up next. Let's talk a little bit about the timing of this, because I think it matters. This happened on the second night in Brussels, which was already a historic set of shows for the group. Belgium had never hosted a BTS concert before, so both nights at King Baudouin Stadium were the group's very first performances in the country. That alone made the whole run emotionally charged for both the members and the fans in attendance. Adding this moment into that context makes it even more memorable, because it shows that even during a historic, high-pressure debut in a brand new country, in front of a completely new fanbase experience, the members' instincts didn't change. Taking care of the person in front of them mattered just as much as delivering a flawless show. This also isn't happening in isolation. This tour, the Arirang World Tour, has been one of the biggest and most demanding productions of BTS's career. It kicked off in April of 2026 in support of their fifth studio album, and it has already broken record after record. By the time the tour reached its North American leg, it had generated well over $100 million in gross revenue from a relatively small number of shows, with attendance numbers in the hundreds of thousands. The three-night run in Mexico City alone sold well over 100,000 tickets. This is a tour on an absolutely massive scale, with a stage design built around a 360-degree center stage and catwalks reaching toward every corner of the stadium, meaning no matter where you're sitting, you're meant to feel close to the group. After wrapping the North American leg, the European run kicked off in Madrid, where Jimin closed out the show with an emotional message about how long it had taken BTS to finally perform in Spain, and a promise that future tours wouldn't leave Madrid off the list again. That message, paired with his tradition of learning to speak a little bit of the local language at every stop, whether it was Japanese in Tokyo or Spanish in Mexico and Madrid, shows a pattern that's been consistent throughout this entire tour. Jimin has been putting in a level of care and attentiveness toward fans in every single city, not just through choreography and vocals, but through these small personal gestures that show he's actually paying attention to who's in front of him. So when you put the Brussels moment into that context, it stops feeling like an isolated incident and starts feeling like part of a much bigger pattern. This is a member who has spent this entire tour trying to connect with fans on a personal level in every city he visits. It makes complete sense that he'd also be the one who noticed a fan in distress in the middle of a packed stadium, because his attention has clearly been on the crowd all along, not just on hitting his performance marks. I also want to address something, because I know some of you are going to ask in the comments. No, we don't know the exact condition of the fan who needed help. And no, there hasn't been an official statement from HYB or from BTS themselves specifically addressing this incident in detail beyond what was visible during the show itself. What we do know comes from what was witnessed and shared by people who were there and watching the live stream. And I want to be upfront with you about that, because I always want this channel to be a place where you get accurate information, not exaggerated or invented details, just to make a story sound bigger than it actually is. What happened was already moving enough without needing to add anything extra to it. This is also a good moment to remind you all, if you're planning to attend any of the remaining stops on this tour, whether that's London, Munich, Paris, or any of the dates still ahead before this tour wraps up in Manila in March of 2027, please take care of yourselves in these crowds. Stadium shows are physically demanding. Stay hydrated, know where the exits and medical stations are, and don't be afraid to signal to security if you or someone near you isn't feeling well. It's clear from what happened in Brussels that the venue staff and the group themselves take these situations seriously, but the best outcome is always catching it early. Now, thinking about the bigger picture of this tour, what strikes me most is how these unplanned, human moments end up being just as talked about as the biggest choreography reveals or surprise songs. ARMY has spent years talking about how connected these members feel to their fans, and moments like this are exactly why that reputation exists. It's easy to perform well when everything goes according to plan. It's a completely different thing to stay attentive enough in the middle of a massive production, to notice someone struggling in a crowd of tens of thousands of people, and to actually stop everything to make sure they're okay. If this video gave you a deeper appreciation for this moment, do me a favor and hit that like button before you go. It genuinely helps this channel reach more ARMY who might have missed the story entirely. And if you want to see more breakdowns like this from every stop of the Arirang World Tour, subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'm covering this tour from start to finish. Every city, every surprise moment, every piece of new information as it comes out. Before I wrap up, I want to circle back to the moment where Jimin addressed the crowd afterward. There's something worth sitting with in the fact that he chose to say something at all. He could have let the show move on, and let that moment fade into the background of an already packed night full of highlights. Instead, he made a point of letting the crowd know it was still on his mind. That tells you a lot about how he processes these situations, not as something to move past quickly, but as something worth acknowledging out loud in front of everyone. It's a small window into how much these members actually feel connected to the people who come out to see them, not just as a fan base, but as individuals who might be having a hard moment in the middle of an otherwise incredible night. That's really what makes the story stick with people. It's not a scandal, it's not controversy, it's just a genuinely human moment in the middle of one of the biggest tours in K-pop history. A packed stadium, a historic first show in a new country, and in the middle of all of that, one member's attention shifted away from the performance and towards someone who needed help, and the rest of the group followed without hesitation. Thank you so much for watching this breakdown of what happened in Brussels. If you were there in person or watching along online, I'd genuinely love to hear your perspective in the comments, especially if you noticed the pause happen in real time before you knew the reason why. Let me know what your reaction was in that moment. And as always, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my coverage of the rest of this tour, because there is a lot more coming as BTS continues through Europe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye ARMY!